All right, so hi guys. So Mr. B told me that what we were doing today was the 7.6 inside the standards practice book. So I'm going to go through just the evens with you guys. You guys can try to do the odds by yourself. I think you should be able to do that. So I'm on P145. And number 2 is 3 times 1/6. So we can rewrite that as going across, because we always write it going across. I can put a little 1 underneath that 3, because it always all whole numbers have a 1 underneath it. Remember the invisible 1? So I end up with 3 times 1 on top and 1 times 6 on the bottom. There we go. 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 6 is 6. And then I need to simplify it. So I need to think, what can I take out of this? Remember, my choices are 2, 3, and 5. Well, I can't take out a 2 because 3 is not even. I can't take out a 3, though. So divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. All right. So our total answer is 1/2, going down to number 4. 4/7 times 1/2. Once again, we're going straight across. So it ends up being 4 times 1 on top, 7 times 2 on the bottom. 4 times 1 is 4. 7 times 2 is 14. Now, I need to reduce it. My choices are 2, 3, 5. Those are both even, so we can take out a 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So we are left with 2/7. Number 6. 4/5 times 3/8. So once again, we just go straight across. 4 times 3 over 5 times 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 8 is 40. And we can sit there and we can look at what we can take out. Remember, our choices are 2, 3, and 5. They're both even, so I can take out a 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And 40 divided by 2 looks a little hard on the surface, but if I can remember that 2 goes into 4 2 times, I just put a 0 after that. When I look at the 6/20, I realize, oh, wait a second, that's still able to make it smaller. So let's go down here and let's do 6/20. And I'm going to divide out a 2, 3, or 5. Or even numbers. They're both even, so we can take out a 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 20 divided by 2, once again, we can sit there and we can look at it and we can go, oh, the 2 goes into the 2 1 time. And then I just put down the 0 with it. So I now have 3/10. Moving on to problem number 8. 8 times 1/9. Remember, the 8 is a whole number. It has an invisible 1 underneath it. On the top, 8 times 1. On the bottom, 1 times 9. So it equals 8 times 1 is 8 over 1 times 9, which is 9. And 8 and 9 have nothing in common with each other, so I got to stop there. Number 10. I have 3/4 times 1/3. 3 times 1 over 4 times 3. Remember, whatever's on the top goes across to the top, whatever's on the bottom goes across to the bottom. 3 times 1 is 3 over 4 times 3, which is 12. Now, I can look at this and I can go, what can I take out of this? 2, 3, or 5. Well, the 3 isn't even, so I can't take out a 2. But I can take a 3 out of the 12. And of course, I can take a 3 out of the 3. So let's take out a 3. So let's divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I end up with 1/4. Number 12. In a pet show, 3/8 of the pets are dogs. Of the dogs, 2/3 have long hair. What fraction of pets are dogs with long hair? So we are still going to be multiplying. 3/8 times 2/3. 3 times 2 goes on the top. 8 times 3 goes on the bottom. 3 times 2, 6. 8 times 3, 24. Ooh, okay. No, we can take stuff out of that. So our choices are 2, 3, and 5. They're both even, so I'm going to take out a 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 24 divided by 2. Okay, so 2 into 24. I'm going to put it up here. 2 goes into 2 one time. We then subtract it and get a 0. Bring down the 4. 2 goes into 4 2 times, which gives us a 4. We subtract it, end up with another 0. So I now have 3/12. Well, we had 3/12 before, just in the previous problem. And there we divided by 3, which gave us 1/4. So 3/4 times 1/3 is equal to the same amount as 3/8 times 2/3. Fancy that. All right. If you need to copy down, pause the video because I'm going to move on to the next page. 14 says t times 3/4. Sorry, just a sec. Sorry. Okay, so t times 3/4, where t is equal to 8/9, which just means that I need to rewrite the problem. Everywhere that I see a t, I need to put in the 8/9. So I have 8/9 times 3/4. Then I set it up like it set it up before. 8 times 3 on the top, 9 times 4 on the bottom. 8 times 3 is 24. 9 times 4 is 36. Okay, so first thing we're going to take out is a 2, 3, 5. They're both even, so I'm going to take out a 2. So when I take out a 2 from both of these, I'm going to have to come down here and do my long division. So 2 into 24, 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 minus 2 is 0. Bring down the 4. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm left with 12 over 2 into 36. 2 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. Bring down the 6. 2 goes into 16. 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16. There's a 0. All right. So now I have a 12 and an 18. I can still take out another 2. Divided by 2, divided by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Okay, I cannot take out another 2, but I can take something else out. Okay, so we have the 6 and the 9. The 9 is not even, so we can no longer take out a 2. Our next option is a 3. Oh yeah, 6 and 9 are both divisible by 3. We can totally do that. 6 divided by 3, 9 divided by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2 over 9 divided by 3, which is 3. So we end up with, as our final answer out of all of that mess, 2/3. Number 16 says y times 6, where y is equal to 2/3. Okay, so we need to replace the y with 2/3 times the 6. Okay, so remember, it always has the invisible 1 underneath it because it is a whole number. So we just write it out. 2 times 6 over 3 times 1, which is 2 times 6, which is 12, over 3 times 1, which is 3. Now, if I take 3 and put it into 12, how many times does 3 go into 12? 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 minus 12. So our answer ends up being 4. Number 18. A group of students attend a math club. Half the students are boys, and 4/9 of the boys have brown eyes. So 1/2, which is shown up like that, times the 4/9 who have brown eyes. What fraction of the group have brown eyes? Sorry. 1 times 4 over 2 times 9. 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 9 is 18. I need to simplify this. So what can I divide out of this? Remember, our options are 2, 3, and 5. They're both even, so I can take out 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So I end up being at 2/9 of the boys. Pause that. If I have it done, I'm going on to the next page. Question number 2. P146. Darlene read 5/8 of a 56-page book. How many pages did she read? So, once again, we have that invisible 1 that's always underneath it. And I have 5 times 56 on the top and 8 times 1 on the bottom. So 56 times 5. 6 times 5, 30. 5 times 5, 25, plus 3, 28. So that's 280 over 8 times 1, 8. 280 over 8. Now I need to see how many times does 8 go into 280. Well, 8 can't go into 2, but it can't go into 28. So we're going to think, how many times does 8 go into 28? 3, because 8 times 3 is 24. 8 minus 4 is 40. 2 minus 2 is 0. Oh, 8 minus 4 is 4, sorry. Bring down the 0, so now we have 40. How many times does 8 go into 40? 5. So 8 times 5 is 40. 40 minus 40 is 0. She read 35 pages. Number 4. A machine produces 1,000 bowling pins an hour, each valued at $8.37. What is the total value of the pins produced in 1 hour? So I have $8. I'm going to set it up this way. $8.37 times 1,000. Now, that 1 tells us that the numbers that we already have here aren't going anywhere. Okay, that was really weird. Those zeros tell us how far to move our decimal point. So we are going to move our decimal point 1, 2, 3 times, because I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. So I end up with a total value of 8,370, $8,370 worth of pins. Number 6. The Blue Lake Trail is 11 3/8 miles long. Hema has hiked 2.5 miles each hour. Okay. And 3 hours have passed. So we need to figure out how far she is from the end of the trail. So each hour she hiked 2.5 miles. Okay, so let's do this. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. That has to do with how many hours. So 2.5, that's the first stretch. Then she walked another 2.5. So 2.5 plus 2.5 is 4, and then 2 halves, which is equal to 5, okay, because those 2 halves make a whole. So she hiked 5 in that one. And then adding on to the 5, we add another 2.5. 5 plus 2 is the 7. We bring down the half. So there she has hiked 7.5 miles by that point. Okay? So by the time she's at the 3-mile mark, she has hiked, the 3-hour mark, she has hiked 7.5 miles. We now have that 11 3/8 that we need to work with. So I'm going to actually shift this onto its side. So pause it there if you need to write that down, because I'm about to shift the angle that we're going at. Okay, so I have 11 3/8 minus 7.5. Ugh, that's really ugly. Okay, never mind, I'm getting a new sheet of paper. 11 3/8 minus 3.5. Our rules for subtracting with fractions is they have to have the same denominator. These numbers do not have the same denominator right now. Here the denominator is an 8, here the denominator is a 2. I need to change that. The way that I can change that is by, let's see. I can make the 2 into an 8. Yeah, I can totally do that. So what did I do to the 2 to make it an 8? I multiplied it by 4. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So I multiply that by 4. And I end up with 4/8. So now I have 3/8 minus 4/8. I'm not able to do 3 minus 4. If I have 3, I cannot take 4. That means I have to do borrowing. So I'm going to borrow 1 from here, changing that into a 0. So that is now a 10 minus 3 over there. And adding an 8 over 8. to that 3/8. So 3 plus 8 is 11/8 on the top, and then the 4/8 just stays on the bottom. Now I can subtract both sides. I can do 11 minus 4, which ends up being a 7/8. And I can subtract 10 minus 3, which ends up being a 7. When I put it all together, it is 7 7/8 of a mile left. 7 7/8 miles left, I suppose. Okay? And that is that. I will see you guys later. Bye. Try your best on the odds, okay?